session, Miss Shahru. So I will look forward to maybe you can share your slide or up to you now how you can. I know it could be difficult for you to interact with people because they have Indonesian language and you might not have experience to speak Indonesian language, but you can communicate within English. And maybe few of the students they can also speak Arabic. Ada mahasiswa yang bisa bahasa Arab.
في ناس بيحكوا عربي. Okay, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Saud. Of course, I will communicate in English because I cannot speak Indonesian, and I can also speak Arabic if someone cannot understand the English. I can answer their questions in Arabic. Okay, now I'm going to share my slides. Okay, is it okay now? Okay. In my session, I'm going to talk about hate speech in organizations. Of course, Mr. Abedin talked about hate speech on social media and cases in Indonesia. I'm going to talk about hate speech in organizations and cases in Kurdistan region of Iraq. First, the outline of my presentation will be as following: what is hate speech and the misunderstanding between hate speech and freedom of speech. Then what's hate speech in organizations, factors that lead to hate speech inside organizations, and then what hate speech results in, cases in Kurdistan region of Iraq and how to counter it, and finally the conclusion. Okay, so first we want to know what's hate speech. Hate speech can be a prejudgment speech, speech or thoughts or ideas from a person or a group of people or a party to others, from a person to another, from a group of people to another, and the purpose of underestimating them, because those people that use hate speech thinks they are superior to the others. That's why they use hatred words, hard words, in order to underestimate them, in order to threaten them, in order to make them afraid and withdraw from that community or that environment. So the people who use this hate speech, they always think they are right. They always think they are superior to the others. That's why they use hatred words in order to get over what's different from them. The misunderstanding between hate speech and freedom of speech. Every time when we talk about hate speech, the concept of freedom of speech arise, or vice versa. If human right tells us everybody is free to express their thoughts, their ideas, their feelings, then why can't we use hate speech, or why we are not allowed to use hate speech? Because there is a limit. Now I'm going to discuss what's the limits. Okay, if everybody is free to express their ideas, then where is the limit to differentiate between hate speech and freedom of speech? Of course, you can express your ideas, your thoughts, your idea about some specific thing, group, or anything else in the world. But when you cross the limits of respecting their differences, when you cross your limits of accepting their differences, their hate speech comes. Because all of us can express their ideas, but with respecting the differences, with accepting the differences. If we accept each other with our differences, if we respect each other's differences, then there is no need to use hate speech and hatred words. What's hate speech in organizations? Of course, previously in the workshop, hate speech was discussed in social media, now in organizations. In organizations, either they're public organizations or private organizations, there are many types of hate speech can arise. For example, first one, not respecting others. Not respecting others in the terms of nationality, in the terms of age, in the term of gender, qualification, certificates. For example, If in a organization there are multicultural and multinational people, for example, in Kurdistan region of Iraq, you can find Kurds, Arabs, sometimes Persians and Turks in specific organizations. If I see myself superior to the others, and if I use aggressive words, if I'm racism person, then hate speech will arise in that organizations. Also about age, if a specific employee is older than another employee by maybe 15 years, 20 years, and he or she see himself superior to the other employee because he has more experience, because he's older, then hate speech will arise. Also, in the term of sex, gender equity, still in Middle East, we have problems with gender equity, equality. Uh, all the time, uh, maybe most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, we can find cases of men seeing themselves superior to women. This is a very big issue in Middle Eastern countries. Of course, and, qualifications and certifications. There are employees who has better certification or higher certification and qualification than the others. They see themselves superior and start attacking other employees by using hatred words, which is counted as hate speech. Another point is underestimating employees' abilities to complete their duties, sometimes from males to females, as I discussed before. Underestimating employees' abilities can be because of age, can be because of certification, can be because of gender. Another point is different kind of harassment by using rough words. Sometimes there are no problem with the nationality, there are no problems with the gender, but you can find some kind of employees because of some personal reason they use rough words against another employee to harass them, to make them quit, to make them get out from the competition. Because of course we know in organizations all employees are working hard to achieve their goals, to improve their skills, to promote. And sometimes because of jealousy, because of this competition, you can find employees using rough words and hate speech against the others. Another point is spreading fake news or rumors for attacking specific employee for a personal reason. Of course, fake news and rumors is a type of hate speech, and it's not allowed. Later, we will discuss how to counter it. Another point is hating and blaming management by employees because of wrong leadership style by the manager. This is a very I can say a hot case in Middle Eastern countries. In most of the organizations, you can find employees hating the management. Sometimes they don't even know why they hate the management. They just simply hate the management and use hatred words and hate speech against the management. Maybe because of the leadership style of the managers. Maybe the managers are not yet using that good leadership style to control their employees and satisfy them. This issue causes hate speech in most of the times. Now I'm going to talk about factors lead to hate speech inside organizations. Of course, there are a variety of factors. I'm talking about a few of them here. The first one is opacity. When you find an organization that there are too much opacity and there is no transparency in the workflow, in the strategy, in the attitude between managers and employees, then hate speech arises. Because when employees cannot understand what managers want them to do or to accomplish, when employees doesn't understand the strategies of the organization, they cannot know the directions of the workflow. They cannot know the clear. They cannot be able to understand a clear strategy of that organization. Then hate speech arises. Another point is weak policy. Of course, having a strong policy in every organization is a very important part to have a well organized organization, well productive organization, educated staff, educated management. Policy can be overall of the employees and management. when the policy is weak, or sometimes there is a good policy, but the management is not practicing it, is not applying the rules and regulations on the employees. In such case, most of the employees feel there's no justice, there's a unfair treatment between an employee and another, so hate speech arises in such cases. Another point is weak and uneducated management. What I mean by uneducated management is a management that is not well open to an international world. They work locally. They don't work internationally. They don't have the experience outside the country to apply it inside the country and develop their staff. When the management is weak and not educated enough to control their staff, to monitor their staff, some kind of opacity will again arise, and this results in hate speech. And another point is organization's culture. Of course, organization culture is a very important part of each organization. When an organization has a strong culture, three things will happen. Employees know how top management want them to respond to a specific situation. And of course, employees believe that their responses and their expected attitudes is a proper one if the culture of the organization, of course, is clear and strong. And employees know that they will be rewarded for demonstrating the organization's values and rules. A good organization culture will create a good environment between the employees and the management, and when the environment is healthy, the hate of speech will be lessened, of course. Another point is lack of staff improvement. If an organization doesn't give continuous training to their staff in order to improve them, of course, this staff cannot understand the differences between the multinationality, the gender equity, the age, the qualifications, and so on between themselves. And racism will arise, hate speech will arise, bullying will arise. Of course, staff improvement is a very crucial part of each organization's, of course, HR department of any organization. The last point is not practicing labor law and the rights by the management. Of course, there's international law in the world, and each country has their own law. And labor law is a part of Iraqi law and Kurdistani parliament law. Mostly in private organizations, there are different kinds of agreements that the organization practice with their labor. Sometimes they don't practice labor law, and they take some of the rights of the employees. And in such cases, hate speech will arise because employees will start talk against the management, and management will take their rights, and hate speech will arise. And of course, in public organizations, we have the same issue, which I will discuss later on in the cases. Now I'm going to talk about what hate speech results in. Of course, we understood what are the factors that lead to hate speech, what's hate speech in organization, and let's discuss what will hate speech result in. Of course, hate speech has a long history in the humanity. It can start with few simple words, but they are hatred words, and results in crime and war. Most of the war in the world started with hate speech and ended up with war, and millions of people were killed in the world. The results of hate speech that can arise inside organizations: strong negative feelings of hate between employees and another employee, and between employees and the management. Of course, when you start using negative words, psychologically you will feel negative about the other parties, about the other person, and this will grow and grow and grow, maybe end up with aggressive arguments, maybe ends up with fighting between the two people or the two parties. Another point, gossiping, accusing, rumor, or propaganda in a very negative way. Of course, when you start hating someone, you'll start gossiping, unfortunately, which is not a professional way to practice in organizations, but we still have such cases in Middle East and in Kurdistan region, accusing and rumors. And another very bad result that arise from hate speeches lower the performance of employees and producing less productive employees. Of course, in every organization, the management wants the best performance from each employee. They want productive employee. But if you see two employees are so much busy with using hate speech against each other, you gossiping, starting to spread fake news, of course their performance in their job and their duties will lower, and this results in a less productive employee. I can connect this with another point that is affect the organization's total performance, production, and reputation. Of course, if the performance of each employee will lower because of hate speech, gossiping, such cases, by general, the performance of that organization will be less, and the production of that organization will decrease, and this affects the organization reputation. And of course, in Middle East, we are very social community. We still have social communities. We have social life inside and outside our working environment. And when something happens somewhere, everybody is talking about it. Everybody discuss it. So it affects the reputation of that organization in a very bad way, because people outside the organization think that the management is very weak, that they cannot control the cases of hate speech and differences between employees. Another point that hate speech causes is chaos, disruption, and confusion. Of course, when disruption and confusion arise because of hate speech, there will be no transparency in that organization, and confusion between employees in the departments and the management and top management and other employees will arise. Then the good news and the right news will not reach their places at the right time because of having too much rumors and fake news. Another point that leads employees to resign from their job, to lose their job, to has a negative psychological effect on the person is hate speech. Of course, when you, for example, we have employee A and employee B. If employee A uses bad words, uses hate speech against employee B, maybe if employee B has a weak personality and cannot tolerate this such hate speech, they will resign from their job just to escape from this kind of harassment. So in such case, employee B has been affected psychologically in a negative way, has been affected financially because they resign and lost their job and they don't have an income. And of course, socially, he will be a jobless person. So it has a variety of negative effects on a specific person or employee inside an organization. Another point is a problem between parties or the people outside the organization, sometimes in a long-term base. If employee A and B has long history of hate speech together inside an organization, they can hate each other even outside the organization. Maybe sometimes after 5 years, if they meet up outside the organization, they still hate each other and they want to accuse each other. Sometimes they will start spreading rumors inside and outside organizations. So the effects of hate speech will not be only inside the organization. It has consequences outside their job and outside the working environment. And finally, of course, hate speech can result in crime in such cases. So these were some of the hate speech results in organizations. Now I'm going to talk about cases in Kurdistan region of Iraq. Of course, Iraq is a multi-nationality country. There are many ethnic groups. There are different religions in the country, and there are different political parties. This affected all the aspects of the country, public organizations, private organizations, social life, and social media as well. There are many struggles between political parties in Kurdistan region of Iraq. And why I'm first, before everything, I'm talking about political parties, because politics in our country has been took control on everything. When you find 2-3 people somewhere sitting and talking, always you find one of the topics is politics. people became to in our country, people reached a point they cannot live without politics because of bloody history that we have, because of the old struggles that we have in the region, because of the many problems between the people and the government, and the government and the neighboring countries. So politics is a very crucial and effective part of our lives. In public organizations, there are political struggles between employees. When you find 5 people working in their room, life is beautiful. It's a new morning. They are working. Out of nowhere, some discussion about politics arise, and employees start accusing each other because some of them thinks party A is right, some of them thinks party B is right, and unfortunately, most of the time we don't respect each other's thoughts. We all the time think we are superior to them. We think that some of them think their party is superior to the others thinks vice versa. So this results in a very aggressive conversation and ends up sometimes with fighting and crime. And of course, weak management is a very crucial part of public organizations, because management of the public organizations is monitored and controlled by the government. And the government, unfortunately, is weak in such part because most of the time, the people who are responsible and managers of public organizations were not promoted because of their qualifications, were promoted because they belong to a specific political party. And cases about private organizations, unfortunately, in private organizations in Middle Eastern countries, still they're hiring people upon personal relations. And when you hire people upon personal relation, you find struggle inside your organizations. For example, in a specific private organization, there are 2 people who are hired because of their qualification, and another 2 who are hired because of their personal relation. The 2 people who are hired because of their qualification thinks that they're superior and better and deserve their job more than the 2 other who are hired because of their personal relation, and vice versa. The 2 other, they think they know the manager and the CEO or the owner of the organizations, so they think their words will be more effective than the 2 others. So in such cases, hate speech will arise, and they will start hating each other. They will start competing, and this is all because of surviving. Of course, everyone struggles for surviving in organizations. And lastly, social media. Unfortunately, if you open a Kurdish social media right now, Facebook or Instagram, you can find people posting and commenting in a very aggressive way, using very strong hatred words against each other. Either it's political, either it's religious or ethnic groups. And this is between the people. And of course, we have struggles between the people and the government, as we see in the photo. The people are on the streets claiming their rights, and the government is not replying them or standing against them, because it's been several years in Kurdistan region of Iraq. We have been through financial and economic crisis, and we're still living in the economic crisis. So people are always going on the streets and fighting and writing, posting, commenting everywhere in social media and everywhere against the government. And this, of course, started with a very strong hate speech, and still is continuous in the country, unfortunately. And sometimes it ends up with crime and they hurting citizens and punishing citizens from the government. So if we know all the type, as we discussed the hate speech cases, hate speech in organizations, and the factors that arise hate speech, now let's talk about how to counter hate speech. Of course, I'm going to discuss it in a brief way. First of all is transparency. If in a specific organizations there is transparency, everything is clear, the strategy of the organization is well explained to the employees. If the rules and regulations as well explained to the employees, of course the employees will know their limits and will understand everything better, and this will decrease the hate speech. Another point is education and staff improvement. Of course, if an organizations care about their staff improvement, gives continuous training to their staff in the basis of scientific, social etiquette, professional etiquette. This will educate the staff more and more, and will as long as the staff is more educated, hate speech will decrease. Another point is organization's policy, rules and regulations. If the organization's policy is strong enough, is fair enough, I mean, like it includes justice and it reflects to the international law and Iraqi law, and of course the law of that country. Then the hate speech will be lessened, because if the policies are clear enough to the employees will not practice hate speech if they know that they will be punished. And vice versa, if the employees are clear about the rules and regulations of that organization, they will try their best to perform better and be rewarded. And if the employees are so busy with improving themselves, they don't have time to tackle each other and use hatred words against each other. The last point is healthy management. If the management is healthy, if the management is away from bribe and work on a justice base, uses practice their rules and regulations, and deals with their employees in a healthy way, without using personal or political effects, the management will be more healthy. And of course, if the management is healthy, the hate speech will be lessened between the employees, because unhealthy management will arise hate speech inside the environment of that organization. In conclusion, I would like to say hate speech is a widely spread phenomenon in the Iraqi Kurdish society. Sometimes it resulted in crime, and we have cases of crime because of hate speech. And hate speech can lower the performance of the government and the society. And of course, it led to a more aggressive citizens, as we see nowadays on the social media. And it led to an unprofessional working environment in a variety of public and private organizations, unfortunately. And at the end, I want to say it's okay to love everyone. Why to hate? Let's love each other, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheru. Really very interesting session to learn about the hate speech in the organization, because this is one of our target to share with our participants how they are able to know about the hate speech in specific toward the organizations. And honestly, most of the things I don't know today I learned from you as well. Um, like organization culture, which is very important today. Like if in any organization, whether in university, whether you are working in a private or public organization, so in these type of forums, so we should have some culture over there, so that can create harmony, respect, and that also a term of having the healthy environment inside the organizations. We today we have a lot of questions. We hope today we come up to respond each and every questions. Uh, there is a one participant, and she said, I want to ask Mr. Abedin and Ms. Shero how you respond about hate speech on social media that makes someone insecure, especially in the millennial generation. So they might ask that basically, like nowadays, pandemic and online forum are so much active. So I would like to ask to Ms. Shero, so would like to respond on it, then we will ask to Ms. Abedin to talk about it.
Thank you. Of course, when we find hate speech on social media, sometimes I practice that myself. So when you try to answer those people and try to make them understand this is not a proper way to express your thoughts, they will, unfortunately, in my country, this is what I have experienced, they will reply you more aggressively. And sometimes they will reply you with worse words. So I believe that everyone from their places should educate themselves and know their limits and know the differences between hate speech and freedom of speech. This is on a personal base, and on a general base the government should create a culture and in the society through the educational sectors like schools and university to educate the young generations to understand the differences between hate speech and freedom of speech and show them the bad results of hate speech. In this, by using this strategy, we can control hate speech inside our society.
Okay,
Thank
thank you so much. Masabidin, how would you like to contribute in this question, please?
Okay, as I've experienced how to counter the hate speech, if I got some sharing or share information about hooks or other content of information that uh, con containing hate speech, I would like to privately uh, remind the one who shared the information through the WhatsApp group. Even I have many group uh, consisting of some government leaders in East Java and also in Indonesia. But uh, what sometimes happen in WhatsApp group is they just share the information without uh, giving their opinion about the messages or the content. They just share it directly. And if I reject or I um, give contrary opinion about the information and we argued and then in that group and luckily was I'm the academic on the group, so some of members stand aside me and we uh, together give warn to the person who share um, his speech content and then he directly delete that messages. But as we know, we have uh, digital track, so we cannot erase any share information in WhatsApp group. Jadi rekam jejak digital tidak bisa, cannot delete it directly. Even the person who give the information delete it right away, but maybe 100 of the member, 10 or 50 of the members have downloaded, so they can share it to other WhatsApp group. And then the easiest way is to kick the member of WhatsApp group. And one of the member of the group say that he, what do you call it, disobey the rule of the group. So this is the easiest way for me to educate other person about hate speech. And by the way, to answer some of the questions, I think some of the question in chat room has similar content. So is it okay for me to share screen,
Yes.
brother?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Jadi my students, you can see the table here, how to counter or how to know or how to educate about the hate speech. We can get some information first about the hate speech, and then we can analyze and we can identify what are actions to counter the hate speech. Yeah, for information, for you, you can raise awareness. Jadi Anda bisa meningkatkan kesadaran tentang hate speech and consequences. What we are doing now here in our workshop is gather some information about raising awareness. We give you some proof, conveying and disseminating information about hate speech. And we here communicate the relevant legal framework how to counter hate speech. After having discussion on this session, we can analyze, we can identify, we can assess hate speech, we can analyze common causes and underlying assumption of prejudices, and we can recognize biased behaviors during what I presented and Ms. Cheryl's presentation, and we can after this we can reporting and exposing hate speech, and what are action we can do. Yeah, each of us must learn about responding to hate speech. Kita harus merespon hate speech. We cannot hate speech happen. Kita tidak bisa membiarkan ujaran kebencian itu terjadi begitu saja, ya. And we can write, ya. We can write against hate speech. You can type on WhatsApp group. You can type in Instagram. You can counter it in comment of Instagram account of a person who spread hate speech. Ya, don't be afraid. Jadi hindari takut untuk memberikan komentar kalau itu termasuk ujaran kebencian. You have knowledge, ya. Anda mendapatkan pengetahuan after joining this workshop. You can change the discourse of hate speech, and time by time you can monitor the media. You can learn, oh, this is hate speech. I don't agree with this. Just show your disagreement of the expression of hate speech. I think that's all to my contribution of the question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This is a productive way to respond in a one slide to all questions. We have another very interesting questions. Like, nowadays, cartoons. So the expression of news and in the organization maybe as well, people, they make the cartoons. And the cartoons can be an expression of hate speech as well. So could you have an idea on it, Ms. Sharu, maybe?
You mean using caricatures on social media to express hate speech? Actually, in my country, we have it in a very funny way. They call it, they are counted as jokes, but sometimes it's for using hate speech or against a specific political person or against the government. In terms of, for example, it's been few months that the government doesn't pay the salaries to the employees. So employees start making caricatures on social media and using funny words and pictures and photos against the government. And of course, this is hate speech, but in a caricature way. Of course, we have that.
Yeah. Mas Abidin, how do you think about it?
Well, talking about caricature or cartoons, well, this is the way how to express our critics to the government. But if for the government it's okay, I defined the cartoon as criticize, not hate speech. But if we use caricature to express religious belief as a funny thing, that's not improper. I think that's not proper way to make religious belief as funny things. Religious belief is not funny. Yeah, religious belief is our belief. So anyone who, or any part or any organization who make a religious belief as jokes, I think most of us cannot accept it. But if we use caricature or cartoon to express disagreement with the policy of the government, we call it free of speech or freedom of speech. That's not hate speech, I think.
Okay.
That's my
One, we
opinion.
have another one of the very funny question that is basically a social phenomena in might be in our societies, that if you talk to someone very politely or softly, then they will not listen to you, and then you have to speak very harshly, and then they will focus on you. Oh, something is very powerful, or like you are working in organizations. So if your boss is very polite and very kind, and then employee will be not take him seriously. Oh, he is very, if you want to take leave, you can just take leave and just ask him, I am sick, so he will give you a leave. But honestly, like in organization culture, so if there could be any boss or a CEO, then he or she must be like a harsh or very rude in the personality. So, Ms. Sharo, like you have a business, management sciences expertise. So, what do you think? Like, what kind of, if we speak very softly or hardly during our organization behaviors?
Actually, in some cases, this is right. What you said is right. Unfortunately, in Middle Eastern countries, this is still happens. When you find a manager is very soft with their staff, the staff sometimes they don't listen to his or her words. But when sometimes the manager is very angry and harsh, the staff will be afraid and they know their limits. This is, of course, not applying everywhere, but in somewhere it's still in this way. But this is not a good thing. I don't think this is a good thing. I don't agree with it personally, because the people should be more aware and educated to obey the rules and obey the instruction of their boss by using harsh words or by having a difficult boss. They should be more educated than that. If sometimes I believe if your boss is nice with you, you should respect this, not use it against him or her. So this is a good thing actually to have a nice boss, but it's not a good thing for the employees to stand against the boss just because he is or she is nice. Actually, we have this case in the universities nowadays, unfortunately, new generations. If they find out their teacher is very nice, they will start making chaos in the class. But when the teacher is difficult and angry, the students will calm down and respect the class, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is basically our phenomena. There is a connection to this question. Addition to that, like, what is the difference between like freedom of expression or freedom of speech and hate speech? Because if you give me a chance, like you are openly to speak up, like freedom of expression. But how you compare the freedom of expression and hate speech? This is argument basically, and we also faced this question in previous slides. Most in previous sessions, the students they say that what is the difference between a critical analysis and the hate speech? So the critical analysis is that we have discussed. The critical analysis is basically the critique on something doing wrong or against the public or against the decision of a. But how we can compare the hate speech and freedom of expression? Could you like to highlight, Ms. Sharo, on it?
Yeah, sure. Of course, the question is very important. Freedom of expression, it's everyone's right to express their thoughts and ideas and their beliefs. But okay, for example, an employee is not happy with her boss. The employee wants to express her feelings and ideas about the boss. They can do this, but they should be aware very specifically about each word that they use during their expression. The words that you use can lead you to hate speech. Uh, the words are very important. You can express your ideas in a very educated way without using any harsh words, this can be a freedom of expression. But when you start using a word that's hate, that's close to hatred word, this is hate of speech. So using the words and choosing which words you use is very important. At the same time, if you are talking face to face, is different from talking on a phone, is different from writing an email, because talking face to face will be the expressions on your on the face will be shown, your hands, everything. So the other person can understand more if you are expressing your ideas or you are using hate speech. But sometimes using the same words but in an email can lead you to a hate speech, because in email the words are not live. Sometimes there will be a big misunderstanding between the two parties. So we should be very careful with choosing the words that we use.
Yeah, thank you so much. Beside it, for example, in your slide, you have mentioned like a hate speech policy in the organization. So, if we have a hate speech policy in the organization, do really we have in any organizations?
Uh, uh, Actually, I didn't for in the organizations I work at. It's a private organization. We don't have such parts in the agreement, but in Iraqi law we have hate speech rule. And last year the Kurdish parliament announced a new rule that they prevent any kind of hate speech on social media. But unfortunately, the rule hasn't been practiced yet, and people still are using and practicing hate speech without any punishment. And in organizations, no, we don't have any specific rule yet, because many times we face hate speech, sometimes in a way of joking between two person or two employee inside an organization. But no, we don't have any rules that stop this hate speech.
Mas Abidin, how do you think about the hate speech in media or universities?
Okay.
Like, is there any policy on it?
Um, First, I would like to call it divide, which is critics and which one is hate speech. Uh, as my experience doing to uh, divide those two contrary side of hate speech, how we can say that the writing or the posting is critics, or how can we decide that the posting is hate speech? First, uh, please learn and consider about the content of the policy of the government, and please do not attack the personality of the leader and the religious belief of the policymaker. Ya, jadi itu caranya. Pelajari, kemudian eh, fahami isi kebijakannya, dan jangan menyerang personality pemimpin, jangan menyerang keyakinan pemimpin. And even you cannot attack the family background of the policymaker. We can define it as hate speech. If we concentrate on the content, how the process of the policymaker, that's what we call critics. And even in the university, I think some policy, if we protest about the policy, we discuss it in my university, and we never would call it talking behind the back of the policy. Well, I don't think that in my university uh, I have never seen about hate speech action or hate speech writing. We can discuss it. We have many WhatsApp group for the lecturers and the leaders, and also some with classes, so we can discuss about the different interpretation of the university policy. I think that's all.
Okay, thank you so much because our